Thank you for joining us as Biden for President presents A Community of Pride. And now, please welcome award-winning entertainer, Billy Porter.
I'm here today as a representative of a time in America when our government cared about its people. I'm a product of that final generation that, even though we were poor, there were government programs in place to help me dream beyond my circumstance. Malcolm Gladwell's debut book, The Tipping Point, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference, first published in 2000, defines a tipping point as the moment of critical mass, the threshold, the boiling point. The book seeks to explain and describe the mysteries of sociological change that mark everyday life. As Gladwell states, ideas and products and messages and behaviors spread like viruses do. Epidemics are sensitive to the conditions and circumstances of the times and places in which they occur. And there is no doubt in my mind that we as a nation are at the tipping point. One that has been heating towards boiling over for hundreds of years. Our basic human rights, our Black bodies have been used as pawns for political gain since the Middle Passage. And the stigma of our queer identities have been vilified and shamed to silence for far too long. The Supreme Court ruled last week that dreamers can't be deported for actually living in America since birth. And they also ruled this past Monday that a landmark civil rights law does indeed protect gay, lesbian, and transgender people from discrimination and employment. We as a society tend to aggregate these basic legal battles in the highest court of the land as wins and loses. Let's just take a minute to truly think about our judiciary system. Our government gets to legislate our humanity by deciding whether or not we get to legally work, eat, breathe, or move around this world freely based on the color of our skin or how we navigate our ever-evolving gender identities. And as it becomes harder and harder to erase people with the stroke of an executive order, our basic civil rights are still under constant and unrelenting attack. Make no mistake, our voting rights are under attack. Tactics of voter suppression, gerrymandering, and intimidation are on full display for all the world to look upon, once again, in horror. We already did this, y'all. We already fought for centuries for these rights, yet here we are again. Remember, white women couldn't vote till 1920. The indigenous American Indians, who are the true founders of this land, didn't get to vote until 1924. And it wasn't until 1964 that Black people and all others were granted the right to vote. But when we all vote, when we remember that the power is in our hands, we the people are charged with the task of creating this more perfect union. We the people, Black people, queer people, gender non-conforming people, transgender people, Latin people, Muslim people, Asian, and every human American in between has the right to vote, to change the course of history. And when we all vote, we win. Let me drive that point home one more time for all of us folks in the margin who have been bamboozled into thinking our vote doesn't matter. Hear me clearly. When we all vote, American democracy succeeds. The American democratic experiment is failing. We are not, nor have have we ever been better than this? And with 40 million people on unemployment and over 100,000 dead from a plague and civil unrest in the streets, America has reached the tipping point. So I ask you this one simple question. Are you better off than you were before? So, we have two clear choices in November. Vote. Vote 45 and all his crony enablers out of office. Reset and begin the American democratic experiment again at zero. Or not. Those are the choices. Democracy, equality, racial justice, women's rights, trans rights, Muslim rights, all human rights, everything we hold dear are all on the ballot this November. And I ask you, America, are we better than this? I believe we are. We'll know our answer come November. 132 days, and I am confident that when we elect Vice President Biden and whomever he chooses as his running mate, they will fight injustice, not only for the LGBTQ community, but for people of color and any injustice in its many forms. It's time for change, and this time, change for good. Vote, vote, vote. Make your voices heard.
Hi, Sarah McBride here, National Press Secretary at the Human Rights Campaign, and like Joe Biden, a Delawarean. I am so proud to support Joe Biden and to work with LGBTQ people across the country to win the White House in November. On the heels of the historic Supreme Court decision, it has never been more important for us to elect a pro-equality president. I've had the privilege of knowing Joe Biden my entire life, and I have seen firsthand his deep commitment to equality. I've heard the passion in his voice when we've talked about passing the Equality Act. I've seen the tears in his eyes when we've talked about anti-trans violence. And I've experienced his profound compassion and big heart when I came out to him and the whole Biden family as transgender. Joe Biden has been one of my fiercest allies. He's been that as both a friend and as a leader. We have never had a nominee for president who, when given a platform, has so consistently and courageously utilized it to champion LGBTQ equality. He did it time and time again as vice president on issues ranging from marriage equality to trans rights. He did it when he started the Biden Foundation, and he's done it throughout this campaign. I am so proud to support Joe Biden because I know he will be the most pro-equality president we have ever had. And I'm ready to join with all of you to work like hell to make sure we elect Joe Biden this fall. Thank you all.
Hey everybody, we are all counting on you in 2020. We need you to register to vote, get out for Biden, and let's bring this thing home in November. Thank you.
Happy Pride. My name is Mira Patel, and as a former Obama administration official who led international LGBT rights at the State Department, I'm so proud to be supporting Joe Biden. As a queer person of color and a first-generation American, I know as president, Joe Biden will stand up for our community, at home and abroad, protecting us and championing human rights, equality, and dignity for all. I hope you'll join me in being out for Biden.
Hi, my name is Reggie Greer, and I am Joe Biden's LGBTQ plus vote director. I'm out for Biden because we deserve a government that sees us and will fight for us again. Our voices and our votes can make a difference this November, so vote. Happy Pride.
Now, I would like to bring in a few good friends for a quick queer chat. First, I would like to introduce Queer Eye Star and LGBTQ plus advocate, Jonathan Van Ness. Next, Kat Cora. Kat is a world-renowned chef, author, and one of the first to come out in the celebrity chef world. President Obama awarded her the President's Lifetime Achievement Award, and she and her wife, Nicole, are the proud mothers of 6 amazing children. And last but not least, Karine Jean-Pierre, Senior Advisor for Vice President Biden, who has had an amazing career as a political analyst, commentator, and lecturer. We got some fierce children here today. Okay, Jonathan, you are up first. Let's talk about LGBTQ plus youth. What's on your mind as we consider what so many LGBTQ plus youth, especially youth of color and trans youth, are up against?
Well, that is such a question, and thank you so much for asking it. And first of all, it's so nice to see all of you. And Billy, I am like covered in chills head to toe watching you give a speech in this sort of Zoom proximity. I don't know if I could have been any more moved in person. Like you're just incredible. And as is everyone on this call. So thank you so much for your time. And thanks for letting me be here. Also, I do have to say, if I look over here nervously, I do have 4 cats. They're doing a whole situation over here. That's all that is. If I look over like that, that's just my parent being like, I'm watching you. So anyway, LGBTQ youth, what is on my mind? First of all, I just have to say thank you to the LGBTQ youth and really our youth in general. I've been so inspired and so just inspired, for lack of any better word, by the youth and what their leadership and strength and courage have shown through these protests. And I think about, what someone like me was up against in my youth, growing up in a small Midwestern town in the age of DOMA, which was the Defense of Marriage Act, and in a time where all I ever heard in news cycles and from adults was like, I believe that gay people are great, but, I just don't believe, I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. And I never thought as a teenager that I would live in a world where I would be able to marry the person who I love or really have a life that so many of us get to celebrate and see today. And I think that is so beautiful. But what is on my mind is that in a world that is so hard to process, all of the information that comes in from the news, from social media, from our families, it can become so easy to become disillusioned and feel that our voice isn't important and isn't heard. And it is more important than ever when it comes to social justice, climate change, racial justice, LGBTQ rights, HIV/AIDS prevention and awareness, education, how we teach history in America. All of these things are on the table in a way that they have never been on the table before. And this is the other thing, it's the election of 2020. This is the second election where people born after 2000 will be able to vote. And what so many people born after 2000 don't remember is the election of 2000. And in that election, George Bush beat Al Gore in an election that was literally all on Florida. It was determined in the Supreme Court by like less than thousands of votes based off of something, I'm not kidding you, was called a hanging chad. I know y'all remember that on the call, but I'm just, for anyone watching, it was literally called hanging chads. And voter suppression and the way that voter suppression has been able to, it's not a new phenomenon, but the way that it's continued to rear its ugly head, and especially since the Supreme Court ruling in 2013, Shelby County versus Holder, our voting rights are at stake, and it is up to the legislative branch to legislate things to protect our voting rights. And in the light of that Supreme Court ruling, we are seeing unprecedented voting stations being shut down. We're seeing unprecedented voter suppression in modern times. So actually, I don't think it's unprecedented. I think that's the thing. We just are realizing that that's what's going on in an unprecedented way. So what I want to encourage youth to do is that if you are of the age to vote, if you are able to vote, register to vote. It is so important that we register. And when you do register, make sure that in the state that you're registering, you are aware of the many tactics that people use to make our votes potentially be able to be thrown out. Double check your name, double check your spelling, double check your address. Make sure you know your rules in the state where you're voting. It's so important. Also, if you are not eligible to vote, don't forget that you still have a voice. You still have a way to move this election, whether that's volunteering your time, whether that's offering rides safely, because always safety first, but there's so a way for you to get involved, even if you are not able to physically vote. But our hard-fought rights of seeing the Supreme Court legalize marriage, say that the Equal Rights or the Civil Rights Act of 1964 does cover LGBTQ people from being fired. Those are all things that can go away. When Donald Trump says that he wants to appoint Supreme Court justices to overturn Roe v. Wade, to overturn gay marriage, believe him, he's not kidding. This is someone who is actively trying to turn our democracy into an autocracy. He is firing prosecutors left and right, honey, that are investigating him. This is not drill. So that's what's on my mind when it comes to youth voting in 2020. And sometimes I also notice that I have this part that comes in to make jokes when I feel extremely uncomfortable, but I am uncomfortable. This is a time that we should all be really uncomfortable with what this government is doing. And we really got to use our voice. But really, I don't need to tell youth that, because you are doing that. So I'm proud of you. Continue to be safe. Protect yourself when you're protesting. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to turn your social media on private. I just read that on Newsweek when you go protesting, honey. Yeah. And thanks for letting me be here. Love you, everyone.
Jonathan, we thank you so much. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for sharing your journey with us. You know, it's really profound. And if I can just say before we move on, you know, as a queer man of a certain age, 50 to be exact, you know, I am first generation post-civil rights movement, right? Then I came out as queer, as gay. We called it gay in the 80s. You know, I've just adopted the queer moniker. But I came out as gay in 85. And we went straight to the front lines to fight for our lives. And I have to say that I was so afraid that social media and reality television had desensitized our culture to the very tool that has been the focal point of all of these movements, including the civil rights movement, including the LGBTQ AIDS crisis movement, which was the manipulation of the media. We have been so desensitized to it. And I was afraid that I was afraid that the images did not matter anymore. And when I tell you that 8 minutes and 46 seconds that has spurred this revolution is so empowering. And I say that to the youth because y'all were born into rights that you didn't understand were not here before you came on this earth. And George Floyd is the inflection point that has brought activism back into the mainstream. And the world is changing. The world is changing for good. That makes me very happy. I want to say that to the youth. I'm proud of y'all, and you can't let up. You cannot. Frederick Douglass says eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Stay eternally vigilant. Kat.
Billy.
What inspires you about our community? This moment, Pride, what is it?
First of all, Billy, I want to say thank you to everybody on here. Hi to Karine and Jonathan, and thank you for that introduction. And especially, I'm honored to be here to support Vice President Biden for President of the United States. We have to ensure that Joe Biden wins. And for all the reasons you just spoke about, you know, I grew up in Mississippi. I was raised by two extremely open-minded parents who didn't care if you were Black, queer, Muslim, Jewish. It didn't matter who you were. Didn't matter where you came from. Even when they knew they were at risk of having their house burned down or shot, they didn't care. And I thank God for that. that I grew up, they were already fighting for civil rights and equal rights and human rights. And I carry that torch for them now and still to this day. And I thought when I was growing up, you know, it gives me chills, makes me want to break down in tears. I thought when I had my children, I could tell them, this is done, this is over, but it is not over. It is not over. We're still fighting. We are still fighting for what we thought about when my parents were fighting about in the 50s and 60s and fighting for human rights and equal rights. And what inspires me the most about this moment is we have so many LGBTQ leaders and activists, many of them queer women like Alicia Garza and Patrisse Cullors, who co-founded Black Lives Matter. We have Jennings, Jenkins, who are helping us think about the intersections and the conversations around race, gender identity, sexual orientation, and then what comes next. And, you know, I think about these trailblazers before us, you know, Larry Kramer, Aimee Stephens, you know, I think about Lorena Borjas and Zarda, and all the people we lost, and the sacrifice and the courage that they gave that empowers me so much today. And it's so important at this moment that we remember those pioneers that came before us and the people that are all the leaders on the front lines today, and of course the youth that you're talking about, to keep fighting and being vigilant in this fight. And, you know, Pride Month and this month has taught us one thing, and that is we have to prioritize LGBTQ issues. We have to fight and ensure our safety and ensure our future. And that's why we have to elect Joe Biden into the White House. We have to clean house. We have to clean that house. We have to put a leader like Joe Biden, who's strong, who's compassionate, who's experienced, who is going to help us not only protect us and our rights, LGBTQ rights, but help protect this country, help heal our country. We have to reclaim America. Our future is literally on the ballot right now. Everyone has to vote. Our voices do matter, we matter, and our lives matter.
All right, Kat, you better come forth. That's right. Our future is on the ballot. It is truly, truly on the ballot. Humanity is on the ballot. Make no mistake. Okay, so the category is Black Lives Matter. And let me be clear to everyone, because I got some pushback on this when I spoke of it earlier on my own social media networks. Black Lives Matter and Black trans lives matter. I said it and I meant it. Let me say it one more time for those in the back. Black trans lives matter. And it is the responsibility and burden of us all listening here to continue speaking up against systematic racism and injustice across the board. Karine, am I saying that right?
You are saying it perfectly. Thank you. Thank you.
Karine, what will Vice President Biden do about this? It's a tall order for any leader.
Yes.
But America lacks any sort of leadership right now. So what will Vice President Biden do as President Biden?
Yeah. So let me first say thank you to all of you. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I think from the bottom of so many of us, we want to thank you for supporting the campaign and just being voices out there that really matter in this moment. Jonathan, thank you. Chef Cora, thank you. The brilliant Billy Porter, thank you. That opening just touched me this today. And I just want to just kind of cry right now because you hit it right on the nose. Everything is on the line. And then when we all vote, we win. Democracy wins. We all win. Let me just say something personal first. I just joined the Biden campaign. I'm about 4 weeks in. And I've known Joe Biden for about over a decade. I was in the White House. I worked on the Obama campaign in 2008, went in the White House, did the re-election. And I have a 6-year-old, I have my own family. And I thought to myself, if I did not get involved in this moment right now, I would regret it. And, I just listened to all of you brilliantly talk about what is on the line. And I think about the last 3-4 years. Yes, we've been fighting this for hundreds of years, absolutely. But the last almost 4 years has been so detrimental. And for me personally, everything that I am about, Donald Trump hates. Immigrant, Black, gay, woman, you name it. Anything that is not him, looks like him, is like him, he hates. And so we all have to speak up. And I say this all the time, when one of us falls, we all fall. And that's what, when you said trans lives matter, Billy, that is so true. I think a few days ago in Brooklyn, New York, we saw 15,000 people come out in support of trans lives, wearing white, marching. And that's what's so beautiful about this moment. Because when we say Black Lives Matter, it's all lives. And we have to remember, I have to say the names of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Ahmaud Arbery, we watched him essentially get lynched. Because why? Because of the color of his skin. So we have an uprising, yes. We have people out there on the street saying, you know what, enough is enough. We need to uproot systemic racism in a real way. And then we have COVID-19, which is a global pandemic that has hit us right here in this country. More than 120,000 people have died from this disease here, this virus right here in this country. Tens of millions of people are unemployed. The leader that we have currently in the White House, Donald Trump, is inept, cannot do it, does not care to do it, especially when he learned disproportionately it is people like us who are dying. And then you have essential workers. Who do the essential workers look like? Like people like us. So he doesn't care. He does not want to lead at this moment. So that is why I joined Joe Biden. I've known him for a while, and I know that he is the leader that will lead us out of this. Because we are in an awful, awful moment, and we have to reset. We have to get to the other side of this. We have so much to fix in this moment, and Joe Biden has the leadership. He has the even keel. He has the plan, and he cares about all of us. And that is what matters. Look, this is Pride Month. And normally, and I want to say happy Pride because we should still be very proud of the moment that we're in and all of that we have accomplished. So happy Pride to everyone. But this is such a different Pride than it was 50 years ago, the first Pride. And we have to use this moment to let people know, hey, you know what? November 3rd, we need you more than ever. Because like all of you have said, everything is on the ballot. Everything that we have fought for, everything that the people before us have fought for, like the chef was saying, is on the ballot. And so once we get to the voting booths and we say, okay, or vote by mail, because that's going to be a real reality in this virtual climate that we're in, we can come together and help Joe Biden in this presidency. And this is where we are. I ask you all, please vote. Please join us. Please listen to all the brilliant people who are on with us today. This matters more than ever.
I think we would also just be remiss, or however you say that, if we didn't talk about down ballot voting and how important that is and affects, especially when it comes to the youth, LGBTQ people, our down ballot voting, and especially when it comes to advancing the initiatives of the Black Lives Matter movement, which we must do. It has been too long. And I mean, to me, it is Pride Month, and yes, let's celebrate Pride Month. But if there was anything that we ever as LGBTQ plus people did, was to take the energy of Pride and continue it and really using this time to awaken all of your friends, all of your family, to use that inertia to turn it to Black Lives Matter and continue to do so, because it's going to take more than social media posting for these last 2 weeks. It's going to be something that's going to like literally take like after the election all the way up to the election. But yes, Joe Biden for president, and we need Joe Biden for president, but we also need Democratic governors and people that are willing to ensure transparency at the local level. We need mayors that are willing to enforce transparency with their local police chiefs. We need local state representatives and state senators to make sure that we are not passing discriminatory trans bills. South Dakota, we need to make sure that we are really being aware of all of the levels in which, because really the system of this oppression that it's based on, it's meant to be confusing. It's meant to be this confusing so that we stay like, it's divide and conquer. That's what this playbook is. So we really, and I also think that it's interesting about, or Billy, when you brought up the pushback on social media that you experienced, I think it is so important. Because I was asking Stacey Abrams, Leader Abrams, about this the other day, and I've never heard it explained to me so concisely. When we attack each other on the left, which I think we have to have constructive criticism, we have to have safe spaces for ourselves to be able to give each other that constructive feedback. That is so important to the process. But a lot of the times when we get into that constructive feedback, and Billy, you can totally tell me to shut up if this wasn't it, but it's just an observation I make from being in the public and understanding the manipulation that goes on. We get so caught up in fighting about the how. Like, how are we going to do it? How are we going to go about it? Instead of the larger picture of the why. When it comes to things like defunding the police and, reform or abolition, so important. This conversation is so important. But the bigger thing we have to focus on is that if we don't elect Joe Biden and local and state leaders that understand the racism and oppression that has infiltrated the police across the United States, because this is an issue that is across the United States. It's everywhere. So it's going to take Joe Biden. It's going to take governors. It's going to take mayors. It's going to take you and me. It's going to take everyone. So let's not turn on each other when we don't agree with how someone else wants to approach something. Let's think about how we have to understand the bigger picture, because when we turn against each other on the how we're going to do something, as opposed to the because when you elect a president and a governor and a mayor, you're electing a crisis manager, which is what Celeste Watkins Hayes taught me, which is the most amazing author ever. She wrote Remaking a Life, which is the most incredible book. It's about Black women living with HIV and how they've learned to they went from dying from to living with to thriving despite, as I believe. She's the most amazing author, Celeste Watkins Hayes. Check her out. But she gave me this other quote, which is so cool. And she said, when you're electing a president, you are electing a crisis manager. We might not agree with every how and how we're going to get there, but who do you want managing this crisis for the next 4 years? That, with the level with which he has denigrated our democracy, denigrated the court systems, denigrated our ability to vote, and enabled that toxicity with Mitch McConnell and all of the other enablers, we are in a situation unlike we have. Honestly, it's the way that Donald Trump manipulates his base and the media and also his own party. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. I don't think our parents, it's like, or maybe they have with Nixon, but I don't know. But this is some serious. So, yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan. That's right. You just said it.
We need Joe Biden in office. It's going to be a long recovery for many of us. So many people are struggling. We have 40 million people on unemployment. We have our LGBT youth that are, so because of the state of the country, our trans youth, our trans lives, our Black lives, we have so many people that are struggling in this country because of the destruction caused by Donald Trump. We have to have someone like Joe Biden. We need Joe Biden in office because it's going to be a long recovery for everybody.
Yeah.
It's going to heal this country. We have to heal this country after the destruction that Trump has left in his path.
Yeah.
And it's going to take someone who has perseverance like Joe Biden. He knows trials and tribulations in his own life. He knows the White House. He knows how the administration works. He knows how to come in with compassion yet confidence, how to protect us and our rights as well as the rights of others in this country itself. We have to ensure that Joe Biden gets elected in office.
Absolutely. And I will just add to that briefly, I speak of very often engaging in the game that we're in. playing the game that is presented in front of us. You know, the game that we're in, the political game that we're in, is electing Biden. Period. The conversation is not if. The conversation is not he did this and he did that, and if he doesn't, blah, 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 he's not going to get my vote. No, that is not where we are. Everybody in America needs to hear this and hear it for real. It's not about if Biden. It's when Biden.
Yeah.
Fall in line and vote down ballot so that we can get back to zero, so that we can start over once again. This is crisis. This isn't conversation. You know, oh, well, you know, we have these options. There is no option. There's one option. That is Biden. I need to make that clear to everybody, because we still, you know, because I'm still going out there and still hearing conversations about, well, and if, and no. That's not where we are. Be where we are. Focus on what we need to focus on right this minute. Wrench the power back. And then we can make the changes that we need. But we can't do that until we get our power back. And that's the moment that we're in right now. I'm done. I've said all I need to say.
50 years ago this month, a simple phrase echoed down the streets of New York City's West Village. Say it loud, gay and proud. The people who marched that day were demanding something simple yet transformative. Dignity, self-worth, the chance to live without secrecy. The strength of the LGBTQ community has always been its ability to find hope in spite of setbacks. So while we won't be able to march this year, that doesn't mean we can't celebrate together. From the generations of LGBTQ activists who paved the way, to the victories we won, to the hope we will never let die. There are so many reasons to be proud. We know we still have a long way to go, but with courage, strength, and resilience of our community, we will keep fighting. And we will make this world better together. Joe and I are with you in spirit as we celebrate this year and next year. When our cities are open and the Equality Act has passed, we will come together to march, to cheer, and to build a nation that makes us all proud. Happy Pride, everyone.
Bleep Water, Jonathan, Kat, thank you so much for joining us today. I am thrilled and honored to introduce to all of you Vice President Joe Biden and Dr. Biden. Hello.
Hi, Kareem. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's so exciting to see both of you as always. And thank you so much for celebrating Pride with us. And my first question to both of you is, why is it so important to celebrate Pride, especially with everything that's happening today?
Because it's important to lift up everyone, to come together as a country. You know, we have to celebrate everyone's uniqueness and contributions. And at this very moment, people around the country are speaking out against systemic injustice, racial injustice, economic injustice, healthcare disparities. Pride finds its roots in our collective struggle against injustice and in the LGBTQ community's enduring test of resilience that we've seen played out. If we're going to make the U.S. the beacon of hope for the rest of the world, once again, we have to pass, for example, the Equality Act, ensuring that the rights of LGBTQ people aren't left up to the courts alone, but are enshrined in our law. We have to fight to protect LGBTQ youth from harassment and discrimination. And we must ban conversion therapy. Ban conversion therapy, period. We have to lift the ban on transgender individuals serving openly in our military. We have to make the U.S. a world leader again in LGBTQ equality. And we have to protect transgender people from violence. We've lost so many transgender women of color to violence, 14 in this year alone. Our fight for equality unites us all, and it requires presidential leadership. This month, I spent time thinking about George Floyd and Aimee Stephens and Larry Kramer and so many others who in life and now in legacy are teaching us to be better and to be greater.
Dr. Biden, you've been a teacher now for more than 30 years, and you're a passionate advocate for quality education for all children. Will you continue that commitment to educate as the First Lady? And as a teacher, what do you think we need to do?
Thank you, Karine. Yes, teaching is more than a job to me. It's who I am. So no matter what I do, education will be a part of what I do. In my classes, I get a window into my students' lives through their writing. And they write about feeling rejected or dealing with bullying or discrimination and encountering violence. And they have broken my heart. And what I've seen in my classes, backed up by studies, LGBTQ students, and especially students of color, face challenges like discrimination and harassment and homelessness more often than their peers. But I also get to see how strong they are and how far they can go when they have the love and the support they deserve. Every student has the right to a quality education, and no student should be afraid to be who they are. Joe has a plan to help students in schools across the country, but I'm proud that he is committed to making sure that LGBTQ students have what they need to thrive.
Thank you so much, Dr. Biden. This next question is for the both of you. There are millions of LGBTQ plus people who feel ignored and targeted by their government. What should LGBTQ plus expect from a Biden presidency?
LGBTQ people should expect a government that sees them again and a country that stands up for them. You know, I can remember still how hopeful we were as a country when the White House was lit up in a rainbow colors following the Supreme Court's marriage equality ruling. And I remember the hope that inspired, and it inspired the whole world. Now, 5 years later, we can celebrate that no American can be fired for who they love or for who they are. You know, I think we have to build on that. And as president, I'm going to go further. I'm going to enact measures that will make equality for all a reality. And Jill and I cannot wait to welcome back everyone to the White House during Pride Month.
Right, sounds awesome. This weekend, you both are making the 50th anniversary of marriage equality in America and Stonewall Day with remarks at Pride Live as well as Global Pride. I know it isn't the same as marching in a parade and you won't get to wave your, pride flags, but are you looking forward to it?
Of course, but we're already flying our flag. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. That's great. Happy Pride. Now, I'd like to turn it back over to Billy Porter to close out with his new song.
Thank you.
There's something happening with you. What it is, it's exactly me. There's a man with a gun telling me I got to be there. I think it's time to start. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Mine is right if everybody's wrong. Some people speak in their mind. So much resistance.